This is the Planetary Potential Podcast for those who are eager to explore entrepreneurship, innovation, and cross-cultural communication in exciting and interesting places around the world. And now, here's your host, Andrew P. Rowan.
Welcome to episode 17 of season 1. What's it like to go from university to leading a startup? This week, I sit down with Amparo Nalvarte, co-founder and CEO of Kulki. In our interview, we cover how Amparo ended up coming out ahead despite having to retake a class, the difference in working with different types of friends, and the importance of getting to the next step. An important reminder that opinions shared in this episode are those of individual guests. For more information, please visit www.andrewprowan.com/disclosures. Amparo and I also discussed some serendipitous supporters of Kulki, how the team deviated from its original vision, and where Kulki is today. Let's get started. With me is Amparo Nalvarte. She is co-founder and CEO of Kulki, which is a fintech startup here in Lima. We are at WeWork, Real Dos. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So the first time I heard of Kulki was at the Lima FinTech Forum, and that was at Universidad del Pacífico. And I understand that you are an alumni of, or I should say here they say alumni, but you're actually an alumna of Universidad del Pacífico. Can you talk a bit about what the special connection is beyond that? Because I understand that Kulki was kind of created at the university. Yeah,
exactly. I studied business administration at Universidad del Pacífico with my co-founder Nicolás. And to finish the career, we had to create a business plan, and we create Kulki in that moment as a thesis of to finish university. So for us, it's very important the university because we not only create the business model there. Also, we receive our first funds from the university. So with that money, we say like, okay, we have the business plan. We have a small amount of money. It was like $2,000, and with that money, we said like, okay, let's quit our jobs and let's do it. Let's start Kulki.
It was like that.
Yes.
So you
it was like that.
You had 2,000 US, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, okay, let's get started.
Yes.
Cool. So can you talk a bit about how the idea came about? Was it something like, okay, we know that fintech and digitalization of payments is coming, but it's not quite here yet, so we should try and be among the first to do that? Or was it an actual problem that one of you had trying to buy something or sell something online?
In that moment, the name fintech didn't exist.
This is back in 2013.
Yes, exactly. So in that moment, we only saw a problem that was that many entrepreneurs or small business, they only accept cash. So we say, like, why they only accept cash if it's so dangerous for them? Let's do it something different. If they accept credit or debit cards, it will be more safe for them, no? And when we start understanding the industry and why they couldn't accept other payment methods, we found that it was very expensive. They didn't understand the technology and all that thing. So we say like, okay, let's create something to solve this problem. And we saw the technology as the method to achieve this goal, no?
Okay, so you saw technology as a way to solve this or to reach this goal.
Exactly.
And so how many other students were there in this course or in your cohort that also were trying to create a company in order to graduate?
Yes, I mean, in my class, we were like 6 groups, but there were like 6 more classes with doing the same.
Wow. How did you end up partnering with your, then classmate, but now co-founder?
Yes, Nicolás. Actually, this is a funny story for me now. Before it wasn't, because this course was the second time that I took the course, because the first one I failed with that course. So it was funny because Nicolás he realized that, and he said, okay, she has experience doing this course, so let's work. I want to work with her. So
Okay, so
he proposed me to work together in this second time.
so you guys were friends before,
Yes,
right?
we were friends before.
And you knew you were both taking this course, and
Yeah.
he knew that it was your second time taking it, so you had
Exactly.
an advantage
Exactly.
because you had already gone through it. So he said, okay, like let's partner up
Mhm.
because you know what's going to happen and what are the requirements,
Exactly.
and it'll benefit me, right?
Exactly.
And so during the first time that you went through the course, was it the same idea that you?
No.
Okay.
It
Well,
was a completely different idea. It was related to tourism because I was working in the Ministry of Tourism,
mhm,
and I have information and all the things that I think that it's very important. The team in my first class, my group were all my friends,
I see.
and we have the same personality.
Mm.
So we couldn't work together because we're almost the same. We're doing the same, and in this
Yeah. Did you find it distracting working with your friends at that point?
very distracting.
I see. But so Nicholas was also your friend, though.
Yes, he's my friend, but he has a completely different personality.
I see.
He's more analytic. He's really focused on the details.
Mm.
And I'm the opposite. I like to be outside, talking with people or trying to find opportunities. So we are completely the opposite.
But
We
you
were
complement
friends.
each other.
We complement each other. Exactly.
Okay, so you are in the course
Mhm.
back in 2013,
Mhm.
and you have this advantage because you know exactly what's going to happen. You have your friend who compliments you.
Mhm.
So then what was that process like trying to decide the new idea? Like did it come instantly to you too? Or did you have to think about it and then finally it made sense? Like we should totally just focus on this, on Cookie. And where did the name come from as well, please?
Okay. Kulki means money or silver in Quechua. Quechua is a native language from Peru.
Mm-hmm.
So the name comes from that. When we started, we had nothing to lose. So what we said, it was like, okay, let's create something that can work in the real life. For us, it wasn't a course. It wasn't a class. It was a business plan that we wanted to create to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So we start with that idea in our mind. The second thing was that we wanted to solve any problem for a small business, and we wanted to use the technology. Whatever the problem we found,
Yeah.
we have our idea was very clear. We wanted to work with the small companies and using the technology.
Okay, so you approached it almost from an impact perspective, right? These are the requirements for the kind of problem we want to solve. So let's think about the problems that fit into these categories so that we can address them. Okay, so that sounds like it was a departure from your first time, right? When you went through the course. Did you get feedback specifically from the professor about why you didn't continue, why you didn't pass?
Yes, the feedback was that the principal feedback was the market.
The market.
Yes, the market.
The market just wasn't big enough. What you were
Yes.
trying to do.
I
Okay.
mean, it has a lot of impact because it was in the nature and
Sure.
impact communities and everything. But it
Just wasn't big enough.
wasn't big enough, and it was difficult to get there. So
Did that factor into your decision making for the next time that you went through it and you purposely picked a market where no one could dispute that it was big enough?
yes, actually, when we started creating Kulki, it was like a very big process, no? And we start with the same, getting focused on a small amount of merchants or small companies, and then we were saying, okay, how can we make it bigger? No.
Okay.
Our first idea was to create a, how do you say, ERP?
Enterprise resource planning?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
For business that were part in Gamarra. Gamarra is like a small, well, it's a big place, but it's like a huge market where there are all these small companies. But it was a portion of the earth, so
Okay.
we were still too small.
Small.
And then we started taking off solutions from this ERP, and we say, like, okay, what is the problem that all the companies in Peru has? That it's not, they not only need an ERP. What is the common problem? We say, like, okay, the payments. Payments are common in all the industries, in all the companies, in all the sites of wherever. And we said, okay, let's work on payments. Payments, it's for all of them. So we said, okay, what have they in common? No? So we start like the segmentation, and we said, okay, for big companies, they want payments, but they need these notifications. A small business, they also want payments. They need this, but more general. So then we start creating something for them.
Interesting. So at this point, to clarify, was this a graduate program or undergraduate program?
Undergraduate program.
Okay. So as part of your capstone, you and Nicholas were in this course, and you were looking at the biggest opportunity that you saw at the time. And so then what was the final deliverable for the course? Like, what did you present to the professor? What was reviewed at that time?
Okay, it was a business plan and like a small prototype of the solution.
Okay.
The solution in that moment were two applications, one for merchants and one for users.
Okay, so then you, of course, passed this time, which was great, right? Because you were ready.
With good grade.
And you had a little bit of this. I assume it was a grant, right? Grant of $2,000.
No. Yes.
Yeah.
Free money.
Okay. Okay. And so then, how soon after you finished school did you and Nicholas decide, okay, we should do it? Like we have the blueprint here to execute.
When we finished university in July, we passed the course. In November, we received the money, and in December, we leave our jobs.
Wow.
So in January, we start.
January 2014.
2014.
2014. Okay. So then from January 14 until October 2015, the product was in development, right? And then you started a pilot program in October 2015.
Yeah.
Correct?
The pilot started in October 15, but in 2014, in August, we won Guaira.
Okay. So you entered into Telefónica's Guaira incubator.
Exactly.
Here in Lima, right?
Here in Lima, exactly.
So at that point, you had additional validation that there was something to this idea and this concept, right?
We have exactly additional validation, and we also invest the first money into the solution, like the visual solution. We create a video.
I see. So you took the $2,000 and you created a video to demonstrate the impact of the solution
and how it works.
Okay.
Because we couldn't create the applications because we didn't have enough money, and we were not the developers.
I see. So Nicholas's role as co-founder today is what in the company?
He's doing product.
His product. So he what is his title?
CPO.
The CPO stands for Chief Product Officer?
Yes, Chief Product Officers. And I mean, he managed the part of product and technology.
I see. Okay. So at that point, though, neither of you had any coding skills, right? You couldn't build the product, but you could communicate what was the value proposition of such a product to then get to the next stage, which was Guaira.
Exactly. And to get into Guaira, we also invite one person that he had skills from development, and he helped us to try to understand what we need in a development team. So when we entered into Guaira, we received the money, and we could hire people to develop the platform.
I see. Okay, so that's when you actually started building it in August 2014. And so it took you about a year then.
Yes.
To build out, I guess, a pilot-ready version, right?
Yes. Actually, in that moment, when we were in Guaira, we had like a very good idea, a very good video, but that's it. We didn't understand anything related to the industry.
I see.
So when we were inside or were part of Guaira, we start creating the product and we start understanding the industry.
So at that point, did you have access to industry insiders, people who did come from the payment processing industry, folks who did understand, what are the compliance requirements?
Yes, when we were in Guaira, but it was a funny story because as part of the ecosystem, we participated in another contest, and we won that contest with the video.
So another contest.
Another contest. It was Start Tel Aviv competition.
Start
Tel Aviv.
Start Tel Aviv. So does that mean that you went to Israel?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you joined some sort of study tour then, right? And saw what
understand the ecosystem like there. Exactly. But the good thing of that competition was that a Peruvian guy that was living in Europe, he saw the news and he worked. He was working on that industry. So he said, like, "Okay, it's so good that Peruvian people is doing this in my country," and he contacted us.
Okay, so there was a member of the diaspora living in Europe who was working in this industry. And so he had the expertise in payments processing.
Pablo Oblitas.
He saw the video and he reached out to you and said, "This is great. How can I help?"
Exactly. It was exactly the same.
Okay.
And he came to Peru also. Yeah, no, it's like an angel for us. So he introduced us to this world, to understand how it works, the actors and everything, no?
Yeah.
He also presents or introduced our first partner, that it was a technological partner, but related to the security.
I see.
Because if not, we couldn't work, no? So we needed this partner.
Critical infrastructure partner.
Exactly. So we start with that.
Wow. So I mean, it to me it sounds like the timing has been perfect for everything, right?
Exactly. Everything was perfect.
And except for, I mean, now you can look back and say, but at the time, I'm sure it was probably terrible that you hadn't passed the first course, right? But if you had passed it, then none of this would have happened, right?
Exactly.
Really interesting to be able to look back on that and see the key moments that could or could not have been. Okay, so now it's 2015. You are launching the pilot in October. How did you determine which merchants could join the pilot? Did they have to apply? Did you contact them and say, "We think you'd be great for our pilot program"?
There is we can go back. When we start creating, the business idea that we had at the university, it was related to create two applications, okay? But in that moment, the acquirers or the processors or our providers, they didn't have the technology to support these applications. So we said, okay, if we want that this solution works, we need to create the infrastructure to support this. So we said, okay, step one and then step two. And when we did the step one, that was create the infrastructure, we realized that most of the startups that were around us in Guaira, they needed the same solution. They needed the same infrastructure because they couldn't find it in Peru. They were using other
foreign solutions.
Yes. And it wasn't like, how do you say?
Robust?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it was too expensive for them to work with
I see.
someone
So they're
outside.
paying a premium. And of course, I assume the customer service support wasn't as good because
They were
time zone
outside.
differences and language barriers and stuff.
Exactly. So they say, like, okay, you're doing this, I need to use it. So they came to us
So
to.
your fellow cohort members at
Mhm,
Wyra
mhm.
said, we need to use the technology that you're
You're great.
developing.
Yes.
And that was while you were all based in the incubator.
Hmm.
And so what was your reaction to that?
We say, like, wow, this is amazing because they want to use it now.
Yeah.
Because when we did the applications,
Hmm.
we went to the small merchants,
Okay.
and everything was like, okay, this is very innovative solution. But at the moment that we say, like, use it, it was like a bit of rejection. No?
I see. And why were they hesitant about using it?
Because they were not used to the technology. Not
I see.
not all of the merchants were. I mean, they use a smartphone. In
Okay.
that moment, our solution was planned to be using a smartphone
Uh-huh.
because it was application, but all of the merchants didn't have
Okay. So
a smartphone.
there were
So,
there were new processes that you were trying to train them on
uh-huh,
using new technology that they
exactly,
weren't comfortable with. So there were many friction points in
exactly,
trying to get them to adopt
uh-huh,
your solution.
exactly,
But your fellow cohort members
uh-huh,
didn't have those same friction points because they
exactly,
all had smartphones, right?
uh-huh.
So did your pilot program end up being your fellow cohort members?
Now remember that we separate the product into
Two
parts.
parts. Okay.
The
One,
first part
yeah.
was creating the infrastructure, so create APIs
Mhm.
and everything. And the other members, they wanted to use the APIs, not the final solution.
Mhm.
They wanted to use the APIs. So in that moment, we say, like, okay, do we need to create a final solution to be the like the brand that appear, or can we um be part in the inside?
I see.
Like, nobody needs
You
to
mean,
know that Kulki exists.
okay, so basically you're asking, should Kulki be the face of this entire process, or
Mhm.
should you be in the back end
Exactly.
supporting?
Exactly.
Got it.
So in that moment, we say, like, if we don't have so many resources, we don't need to be in front. When maybe we can do a B2B solution and
Mhm.
we can be in the back. So that works for us in that moment.
Well, that was a key decision to make.
Yeah.
Did it take a lot of time to make the decision,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
okay, so what were some of the challenges in trying to figure out what was the best way to proceed at the time? Were you and Nicholas in alignment, in agreement on the way to proceed, or was there a difference in vision for where Kulki should go?
Our vision was to solve payments. So if it's a final solution or if it's a back solution, it was we wanted to solve payments.
Yeah.
One of the pressures that we had, it was like, for Waira, we present the applications,
Hmm.
and they wanted to be sure if the applications works or not. Because if we were, um, it's like, how can you convince your investors that you are doing other things?
I see. Okay, so your scope was expanding after you had entered Wyra, or was your scope decreasing? Because based on
Maybe decreasing.
okay, so based on what you said is you had presented something to Wyra,
Mhm.
but then you were now trying to deliver something else, and you
Exactly,
were
or something
concerned
different.
something right, and so
Mhm.
you were concerned that perhaps you didn't fully represent what the actual final product would be.
Yes, and why not finish the applications? Why only stayed in the infrastructure. No,
I see.
we have to convince them, convince the other investors that that was the best solution. No?
What was the feedback from the investors and from Wyra about this?
I mean, they didn't want to say no for something that we haven't tried. No, because at the end we never built the applications.
Mm-hmm.
We only stay. Well, I mean, we create the first part, and then we stay there.
And left it at that.
Yes.
Okay.
Part 2 never exists.
Interesting. Okay, so at that point, then how does that impact the resources that the company has, right? Because you had raised some capital at that point with
Mhm.
angel investors
Mhm.
with the intention of building out both parts.
Mhm.
But now you're only building,
The
you could
first part.
say, the first part, or in certain perspective, half, right?
Mhm.
So does that mean that they were expecting what were they expecting for like all those resources to be directed towards?
I mean, in that moment, I mean, we realize if we continue with the second part, we need more resources because we need to educate people to use the solution. We need to invest in digital marketing or social media, and it's harder to convince like the mass of people,
Yeah.
and it's hard. But if we stay in a B2B solution,
Mhm.
it's easier for us to go to different business and say, okay, make like a direct sale.
Yeah.
No, it's less resources, and they give you more money, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this solution, of course, is not only suitable for Peruvian companies, right?
Yes, I mean, it can be. I mean, we have a restriction of the market. We are in Peru and we have the connection in Peru, so we can only accept Peruvian companies. But our solution was created to be like all Latin America. So we are doing like a small modifications on our platform,
Yeah.
so we can do the connections to the other countries in Latin America and accept merchants that were
Has
there.
has that scaling process started yet?
2, 3, no, yes, like 5 months ago, we received a new investment, and it was made by Credit Corp. Credit Corp is actually it's the biggest corporate, the investment group or group here in Peru, and they have. I mean, this group have presence in different countries in Latin America.
Okay.
So our expansion plan goes with them. No?
I see. So they're kind of your expansion partner,
Exactly.
so to speak. But within that expansion plan, have you identified which countries make sense to target first?
Yes. At the first time, it was Mexico, Chile, and Colombia. But now that we have the group and the group is not doesn't have presence in Mexico, we are more focused on Chile and Colombia. Maybe start in Bolivia. Bolivia is a small country, but it's like there are no players now.
Mm. So that's certainly an advantage if you were the first to move in there.
Exactly.
You said you had to modify some elements in the product.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of localization, is
Mhm.
there a lot to change in terms of the APIs, or is it more about how commerce is conducted in those specific markets?
It's more the back office. It's related to the back office because you have to not Kulki merchant. It's Kulki providers. We need to do more integrations and understand how they works in the different country and make it work with our operations.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. And so then what does that expansion look like? Does that mean that you're going to be traveling a lot more in the region?
Yes. Yes, I love to travel. So
So you'll be looking forward to it then.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay, super. And of the three markets, which one are you most interested in spending more time in?
If I see the opportunity and the competition, I think that could be Colombia and Bolivia.
Colombia and Bolivia.
Mhm.
Hmm. Okay, so earlier you said that in 2013, the term fintech hadn't
Mhm.
existed yet
Mhm.
here, right? Can you talk a bit about what have been other changes in the fintech industry in Peru since that time?
Okay. In the fintech industry.
Yeah. Well, I guess another way to put it is if you weren't building Kulki today
Mhm.
and you were interested in doing something in fintech,
Mhm.
what would you be looking at? Would you be looking at underbanked, unbanked people? Would you be looking at remittances? Would you be looking at another fintech opportunity?
A fintech opportunity now. Mm, I think that more than fintech as a service, banks now are like doing many solutions and are competing with fintechs now.
Mhm.
But what is missing it's information and APIs to receive information. That's very important for any company.
Okay, so when you say information, do you mean information for the consumer to make a decision? For example, about a loan?
No, no, not the consumer.
Okay.
The fintechs, for example, or banks.
Okay. So when you say information, you mean like financial health of the company?
Yes, for example, anti-money laundering.
Okay.
Yeah, information related to anti-money laundering. There are some lists, and if one company needs to make a consult to get that information, it's like there are no APIs to consult that information.
I see. So the
Or
process is still pretty manual then.
exactly, there are some processes that are still too manual, and digital companies need APIs to make it easier.
Okay, so then what you're saying is basically there needs to be more efficient ways of sharing information as resources for reference in company decision-making processes.
Exactly, and we need APIs for everything. So there are so many traditional companies that they have information or they have services, but they don't have APIs.
In terms of sharing information, how do you see the attitude towards privacy by consumers here? For example, does Peru have strong privacy protections for consumers? Are consumers at all concerned about how their personal identifiable information might be used or misused?
I think that people, the law is not that hard. We have the law only for persons,
Hmm.
not for companies, and now we need to how do you say we need
In Spanish?
como que aprobarlas, o sea, tenemos que cumplir con las leyes.
Oh, you need to comply with
Yeah,
the laws. Yeah.
exactly. We need to comply. Eh, the las multas,
The fines.
the fines are like very high if we do not.
So enforcement of the law, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's a important part.
definitely.
And the other part, I think that people doesn't realize that companies has their information.
Okay, so they're
They're
not
not
even aware
exactly
that
aware
there's
of
some company that's collecting all their information that's available and has created profiles of them as consumers or as
exactly.
basically what's the value over their lifetime
Hmm.
value of a
Hmm.
consumer
Yes.
projected, of course. Interesting. So in that sense, you mentioned security as one of the critical components of the Coolkey solution. Of course, that solution being supported by technology, but also important is simplicity for, of course, your customers,
Yes,
right?
for our customers, for us, for my life. It's simplicity for all of us. Yes.
So with simplicity, that means also a different attitude towards building the product, right? If you're trying to make it as simple as possible, that means that sometimes you have to forego potential features, right? What has that trade-off been like in terms of balancing simplicity with having a robust feature set in your solution?
I mean, we have to did a very deep work because we we are working in an industry where everything is so complicated because these providers like banks or acquirers,
Yeah.
they are so big and they have so many process and compliance and everything,
Yeah.
and it's terrible. So our job is how we how do we manage this, convert, yes, how can we make it easier for our merchants. So
I see. So how can you onboard them more easily? How can you convert them to your solution?
exactly. So we have, I mean, for our clients, it's perfect, it's so simple.
Yeah.
But for Turkey to providers, it's like, how can we transform this to make it simple? No?
Okay, so in that sense, it's more like translation then, right? You have these compliance, these requirements, and you have to translate them into very easy to understand requirements for your customers, right? That's also a barrier to entry into the industry,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
Like,
when you were first entering into this payment processing industry, did you feel overwhelmed by all the different regulations and requirements and compliance areas that you had to know, right? Especially as a CEO.
um, yes and no. I mean, we for us, the solution was simple.
Yeah.
What we had to do was simple because we never thought, or we didn't realize the compliance and everything.
So because you didn't come from the industry, you didn't know all the requirements.
Exactly.
And so as you were moving forward, you just figured it out as you developed the solution, right?
Yes, but for us it wasn't like difficult because we said like, okay, we can create things from nothing and we can afford it.
Okay.
I mean,
Interesting. Is there anything that you think you would have done differently than before, or that you can see clearly, like we spent too much time on this area, we should have really done this instead?
yes. At the first time, we were focused or more focused on the product, So we start and we start doing like everything around the product and the technology. And then to us, like the customers, I mean, having more clients was like the result of having a good product. That's why we were growing like word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Word of
Yeah.
mouth. But now that the market is like, there are more players, there's more people wanted to work in this industry.
Yeah.
It's like we are doing like, okay, we need a very good strategy. We need to invest in marketing, for example, and okay, how can we make it explode?
I see. So do you think that you relied on word of mouth for too long and you didn't diversify into different growth channels?
Yes. I think, or at least starting before, um, doing more things to invest in growth.
I see. And so how are you addressing that now? Because it seems like you're aware of this challenge. So is it what you talked about just now with marketing, digital marketing?
Yes, we were two people selling, and that's it. Now we have a bigger team that see communications, marketing, social media. We invest in rebranding.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new brand, a new logo, a new ID, and everything. And
You had
we're
the logo, the relaunch a few weeks ago.
yes, and we have like doing KPIs and doing a new strategy, and yes, we are doing a lot of things to reinvent this part of the commercial part.
Why did you feel you had to rebrand the company?
Because I feel that it was too soft.
Too soft how?
Um, the what the brands communicate,
Mm-hmm.
it was too soft. It didn't represent the DNA of Kulki.
I see. Okay, so that was the organic development of the brand, right? Because you created it in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 6 years later, or I guess you started the rebranding process some time ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you decided, okay, we should be more particular about the way that we present the Cookie brand,
Mm-hmm.
especially as we're scaling
Exactly.
in Latin America, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see. Are you happy with the rebranding?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Because the work that we did there, it was first to get the DNA of Kulki.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a lot of interviews and everything to get the inside of people and what people think about Kulki.
Yeah.
And with all that information, how can we transform in a new logo, for example, no?
Got it.
Or the communication, what we want to express. I mean, as a founders, we represent the brand, but it wasn't brought in any part. It was only in our minds.
I see.
So that work was not only to rebrand the company, it was also to get the insights, the values, and everything. So we are almost 40 people now. So how can we download the information to all of them if it's not right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And of course, you want to have everyone on the same page and have the same aligned vision for the company moving forward.
Exactly.
What is your projected headcount going to be by the end of this year or next year?
Headcount, hire more people?
Yes. Yeah. So you say you have 40 now,
Mm-hmm.
right? You started with 2 in 2013.
This year, maybe we will be like 55 people.
55 people.
Yeah.
All here in
All here
Lima?
in Lima, yes.
So then what are some of the functions that you're going to be hiring for?
Digital marketing, operations.
Yeah.
I want to reinforce fraud management. Yes, especially and more people in technology, you know, to develop.
So helping to get that new brand messaging out with the digital marketers.
Yes, everything related to communication, sales, it's growing, and to support the growth, we need the operations 100% good.
Yeah.
Well, and
processes as well, right?
yes, exactly, and the process and the
Standardized.
operations, yes, all that thing that is automatizations and everything. And the other part is technology. We are still creating new products or having new release, and we need more people in technology doing things.
I'm reflecting on how Cookie started, and I mean, it seems like perfect story, you know. Even the beginning, where there was the stumbling part, and then from there it just like took off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you have guessed that you would be at this point 6 years ago, and when you were in the class with Nicholas?
Um, I mean, we knew that we wanted to do something big.
Yeah.
And this is part of 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 what we are getting
Yeah.
in the life of Kulki. And I mean, we are enjoying like every time, every part of the story of Kulki for us are lessons for life, for our life. I mean, we started very young, 22, 23 years. And and now it's like we were growing with Kulki. Just for us, it's kind of interesting or funny because Kulki was a baby, now it's getting a professional, and we were we were going through these parts also. We were like very young. Now we are how is madurar, no madurar. We
More
are getting
mature.
older, mature. Exactly. So we were growing with Kulki and learning new lessons like
At the same time.
at the same time. Exactly. Yes.
Oh, really interesting. So as we draw to a close, I always like to offer the interviewee an opportunity to talk about anything I didn't ask. So you can share something that's related to you or about Fuki, about Lima, about Peru, Latin America, or you can share something as general as the best advice you've ever received. It's very open ended. So this is your time to share whatever you'd like to share.
Okay. Um, what I always tell to people or new entrepreneurs, it's to have the things clear since the beginning. But things clear, not in the product, not in commercial part. I mean, things clear, things related to the company. For example, the legal part
Mm-hmm.
related to the investments and the accountability and all that things need to be done since the beginning, and be very careful with that information and with that process because it's very necessary. If you want to receive investments to continue growing,
Yeah.
you need to present this information.
Mm.
If you don't have this information or this work done, it's very difficult for entrepreneurs to receive funding in the next steps.
Yeah, it's such a key point that the critical areas like corporate governance, financial and accounting standards
Yes.
are often overlooked, especially in early stage companies.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's some really, really great advice.
Yes, and the other one, it's like many people doesn't trust other people. No? If especially if they are looking for co-founders or as a CPO, and the only key or tool that we have in that moment to offer are the acciones. Actually, yes, the actions of our companies.
Okay.
So we don't want to give these actions for free. We want to give these actions for something that get value to the company. So if people doesn't trust or doesn't know the job of the other person, and you will give them in advance like the actions, it's like don't do it. Don't do it if you don't trust the person. So there is a tool that we can use that the name is vesting. It's like you offer, for example, 10% of the company to one person, and but you don't give the 10% in advance. You you will give this percentage in different periods of time and related to the objective or not, if the job was done or not. So you don't have a partner at the first time. That person will get or will be your partner as soon as it will be like getting the job done. No?
I see. So you are recommending for folks to implement vesting schedules.
Yes.
So usually it's 4 years with a 1-year cliff.
Yeah.
Right. So as you said, as you continue to meet milestones and your goals and objectives, there is that transference of equity.
Yes, exactly.
To the employee or
equity. That's the name.
Whatever the
yes, it's very common here in Latin America that people doesn't know that tool exists.
Yeah. So I mean, also to extend that, do research before you enter an agreement or enter a business relationship, right? Because there are many resources that are available online. Of course, not all I think are in Spanish, but the majority are in English, at least the ones that I'm aware of. But yeah, that's great advice. Very hard to balance though in the moment, right? These are things that when you look back on or in preparation for, you can see very clearly. But then I think sometimes when you're in the middle of something, it's hard to keep it all in mind.
Yes, but for us, we implement vesting in the third time. I mean, the first time we give the equity in advance, and then we have to recover it. It was
really?
Yes.
Wow.
The second time we did the same.
Same
we
thing.
give and then recover, but not all of them. Okay, now the third time it will be the best time. So we use vesting because in that moment we didn't know that vesting exists.
And all 3 times were at Kulki or at
with Kulki.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for, of course, your time, Amparo, and for sharing some insight about the Kulki journey. Really amazing, like straight from university until today. It's like, home run all the way, it seems. And of course, looking forward to the expansion in Latin America and more startups like Kulki that have that foresight and vision to just tackle a problem area and make the most of it. You guys are pioneers. So congratulations on the success thus far.
Thank you.
And until next time, take care.
Thank you very much.
I don't think I've heard of a more straightforward path from university to starting a startup than Kulki's. The team story demonstrates the value of just getting to the next step in order to eventually progress toward a goal. Thank you, Amparo. I hope you'll join me next week when we sit down with a recent returnee who has spent considerable time in Europe and Asia before coming back to Lima. Thanks for listening.